At 74 years old, I faced the worst deception of my life on Christmas night. My son and daughter-in-law gave me the same fake photocopied card for 3 years in a row. It was a sign of their laziness, but when I found the forged will hidden behind that flimsy paper, I realized it was a blueprint for betrayal. They thought I was just a naive old woman, easily discarded. They had no idea that my hidden 50-year-old skill in forgery was about to give them the cruelest form of justice. Rain fell like knife cuts, but my son's words were sharper still. He stood there pointing at the pile of trash and said, "That's where I belonged." I stood frozen under the freezing downpour. My thin coat soaked through, heavy on my shoulders. Water ran through my hair, dripping off my nose, my chin, but I didn't blink. I looked at Ryan, my son, the child I'd raised with these 2 hands, and searched his eyes for a trace of the boy who once called me his hero. But there was nothing, just coldness, as if I were a debt to be settled. I stood in the middle of a junkyard on the outskirts of Ohio, where the stench of rotting garbage and damp earth rose, mingling with the chill of May. Ryan, 34, tall in his glossy leather jacket, pointed toward a heap of torn plastic bags and discarded scraps. "This is where you pay Dad's hospital bills," he said, his voice flat, like he was reading an invoice. I wanted to scream, to ask him why, but my throat was dry. This morning was supposed to be different. This morning I was at the hospital sitting by Walter's bedside. My husband lay there, gaunt, his skin grey like ash, the oxygen tube hissing beside him. Late-stage lung cancer had stolen his smile, but not the light in his eyes. "Evelyn," he whispered, his voice faint. "Don't worry, we'll be okay." I held his hand, those bony fingers I'd clasped through 40 years of marriage, and promised I'd find a way. The hospital bills were piling up, invoices like waves, each one higher, stronger. I'd promised him I'd handle it. Ryan showed up at the hospital shortly after, unannounced. "Mum, we need to talk," he said, pulling me into the hallway. I thought he'd come to comfort me, to share the burden, like a son should when his father's fighting death. But his eyes were cold, distant, like a banker about to deny a... "It'll help pay the hospital bills," he said. "But you have to give me control of the assets, the house, the accounts, everything." I hesitated. The house in town where Walter and I raised Ryan was our biggest asset. It was in both our names, but I'd never considered giving up my share. "Ryan, we can find another way," I said, my voice trembling. He frowned as if I were an inconvenience. "You don't get it, Mum. If we don't do this, Dad will die in that hospital. You want that." I shook my head, tears welling. I agreed to go with him, thinking we'd head to the bank, sign papers, or at least talk it through. But instead he drove out of town, down muddy dirt roads to this junkyard. And then he said those words. I watched Ryan walk back to his car, the door slamming shut, the engine roaring to life. He didn't look back. The sleek black SUV vanished into the rain, leaving me with the trash and a bitter truth. I wasn't his mother anymore. I was an obstacle, an expense to be discarded. I stood there trying to breathe, but the air was heavy, stifling. Rain soaked through my shoes, the old canvas pair I'd worn for 3 years because I didn't want to spend on anything unnecessary. Money. I had saved it all for Ryan, for Walter, for family. I thought of the years gone by like a slow-motion film in my mind. Me, an accountant, working 2 shifts to pay Ryan's college tuition. I remembered his smile when he graduated, when he hugged me and said, "You're the best mum." But now that smile was gone, replaced by the gaze of a stranger. I started walking, my shoes sinking into the mud. The dirt road back to town was at least 5 miles, but I walked, each step heavy, each breath stinging. I thought of Walter, of the promise I'd made him this morning. I'd find a way, even if Ryan had abandoned me. I stopped, mustered my courage and dialed. The phone rang 3 times before Martha, my old friend, answered. "Evelyn, my God, where are you? It sounds like you're outside." "Martha," I said, my voice shaky, "I need help. I'm at the junkyard on Route 47. Silence for a moment, then her voice turned serious. Don't move, I'm coming right now." I hung up, standing in the rain, a mix of relief and pain washing over me. I knew one thing for certain. I didn't belong in this trash heap. I'd find a way. Not for Ryan, not just for Walter, but for myself. I sat in the small town diner, a steaming cup of coffee in front of me. Rain still pounded the windows. The chill outside was nothing compared to the cold spreading through my chest. Ryan's words echoed sharp as a blade. I closed my eyes and old memories flooded in. 30 years ago, I was Evelyn Harper, an accountant working 2 shifts. Ryan was 3, his blonde curls bouncing, always clinging to my legs. I pored over numbers, sometimes wrote letters by hand to beg for extensions. Once I sold my mother's engagement ring to cover Ryan's preschool tuition. I stood outside the pawn shop, tears streaming. But I didn't regret it. Ryan deserved everything. Years later, when Ryan started college, I kept working non-stop. He wanted to study business at Ohio State, a good school but expensive. I cut every personal expense, declining a vacation with co-workers. "Mum, I'll pay it all back," Ryan promised. I believed him. But everything changed when Ryan married Lisa. She swept into his life, carrying ambition and the gleam of expensive things. Slowly I saw that her smile only appeared when she wanted something. "Can you help, Mum?" she'd ask. I gave them $2,000 from my retirement savings, then $10,000 more. Each time Ryan promised to repay, but no checks ever came. I started seeing the truth when I found Ryan withdrawing money from the joint account I shared with Walter without asking. I discovered a bank statement in the trash, crumpled. $5,000, then $8,000, labelled company investment. "Mum, it's just a loan," he said, no trace of remorse. He bought a new SUV. Lisa flashed a designer watch. I kept wearing my patched-up shoes, pinching pennies to cover Walter's hospital bills. I opened my eyes back in the diner. The coffee had gone cold. Martha walked in, her face lit with worry. She hurried to sit across from me, her grip firm and steady. "You don't have to say it all now, but I know you didn't end up at a junkyard in the rain for no reason. Come to my place, take a hot shower, and we'll talk." I followed Martha to her car, leaving the cold coffee on the table. As the diner door closed behind me, I felt a small shift. I couldn't go back to Ryan's house. Not ever. Not because I was angry, but because I knew deep in my heart that I deserved better. Part the 3rd. The blueprint for justice. Justice revenge. I woke up in Martha's guest room. The weight in my chest was heavy, but now a cold clarity had set in. I told Martha everything. The junkyard, the money, the house. "I heard a rumour last week, Evelyn. Ryan's been talking to realtors about selling your house," Martha revealed. My breath caught sharp as a splinter. The house on Maple Street was my anchor. Martha handed me a business card. "Henry Caldwell, attorney." I sat in Henry's cramped office, explaining everything. Henry made a call to the bank and delivered the devastating news. Ryan had withdrawn thousands and, worse, had forged my signature on a loan application, using the house as collateral. Back at Martha's, I forced myself to look at the evidence. Then I remembered an old phone Ryan had borrowed. I powered it on and found a thread he hadn't deleted, messages between him and Lisa. Lisa wrote, "Let her think it's for hospital bills. She'll sign anything if it's for Walter." Ryan replied, "I know. Once we sell the house, we can put her in a nursing home. Cheap one." My hands trembled, the phone slipping to the bed. A nursing home? They weren't just taking my money, my home. They were planning to erase me. "They want to sell my house, Martha. They want to put me away." "Then we'll fight them, Evelyn. You're not alone in this." I stood, my hands steady now. I thought of the junkyard, of Ryan's cold eyes. I've given them too much. It's time I take it all back. I called Henry. I told him to freeze the loan file and file fraud claims. Then I focused on my secret savings. $20,000, safe in a private account Ryan didn't know about. I needed to protect it and the house. I met with Clara, who ran a local charity. She suggested transferring my share of the house and my secret savings into a trust managed by her charity. It would keep the assets out of Ryan's reach and give me a new legacy. It felt right, a way to honor the woman I was meant. I had my plan. I would meet Ryan one last time, pretend to comply, and deliver the final devastating truth. The air was thick with the stench of wet trash as I stood in the junkyard again. I had chosen this place on purpose. Today, I would turn his words back on him. The folder of evidence was tucked under my arm, its weight a reminder of the truth. Ryan's SUV pulled up at noon sharp. He stepped out, his face a mix of impatience and expectation. "Mum, you look tired," he said, his voice slick with false concern. I was calm. I opened the folder, pulling out the bank statement, the forged loan application, and the printed messages from his phone. I read them aloud, my voice clear, though each word burned. "You plan to take everything," I said. "The house, my savings, my life. You thought I'd just disappear." He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Mum. I'm trying to save Dad's life. This is about family." I felt a surge of something fiercer than anger. I stepped forward, closing the gap between us. "Family doesn't forge signatures," I said. "Family doesn't plan to lock their mother away. Family doesn't drive her to a junkyard and tell her she belongs there." Ryan's face went pale. I pulled out the final piece, a notarized document from Henry transferring my share of the house to the trust. "The house is safe now," I said, "out of your reach. And my savings, and the ones you didn't know about, are gone too. Donated to people who need it, not you." Ryan's face twisted in shock and rage. "You can't do this. It's my inheritance. I deserve it." "You deserve what you've earned," I said. "And all you've earned is this moment right here." I reached into my pocket, pressing stop on the small recorder I'd hidden there. Every word he'd said was captured. I didn't tell him. "You chose this place for me, Ryan. This junkyard. Now you can stay here with your choices." I turned, walking away, my boots steady on the gravel, my heart light. Ryan shouted after me, "You can't do this. I'm your son." I didn't look back. The junkyard faded behind me. As I reached the main road, Martha's red sedan slowed beside me. She leaned over, her face a mix of worry and pride. "You did it, didn't you?" she said. "I did," I said, my voice soft but sure. I faced him, and I won. The morning sun spills through the wide windows of my new apartment. I stand in the small living room, a paintbrush in hand, working on a canvas. I moved into this modest apartment 2 weeks after the confrontation. I'm 67, and for the first time in years I'm living for myself. I use the money from the secret trust for my life and my art. I've started a part-time role at Clara's charity, teaching financial literacy to women rebuilding their lives. Their stories echo mine. Teaching them, I find pieces of the accountant I once was, but also the woman I've become. I still visit Walter every day. He's stable, and the house, now safely protected by the trust, will be taken care of for his lifetime. I told him I found a way, just like I promised. I lost a son, but I reclaimed a life. I chose dignity over submission. I chose truth over a comfortable lie. And when I look at this apartment, at the canvas, at the light, I know I will never be useless or a burden again. That is my story. It's a harsh one, but a hopeful one. I learned that sometimes the greatest act of love you can offer is not sacrifice but self-respect, and that the very people who try to discard you are often the ones who teach you how strong you truly are. If you are listening to this and you are carrying the pain of a betrayal, please know you deserve better. Your worth is not defined by how much you give, but by how much you value yourself. Tell me, what was the most shocking betrayal you ever faced, and how did you finally find justice? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel.